Hey, so this is my podcast or my grade justification, mainly just talking about what I believe that I got and why I believe that I got it. Essentially, I came into this class just thinking that it would be a usual class. I would do things as I normally did, look at the rubric, look at the syllabus, and do exactly what the teacher wanted. And I thought that I would always, or that I would get an A as usual, or not as usual to get an A, but usually that procedure or that method does work for me because I have had pretty exceptional grades in the past. But however, I was quickly humbled and also quickly saddened to find out that that was not the case, and it was also going to be much harder than that. For the first time, I kind of had some type of realization and some type of enlightenment, and actually seeing that I could actually possibly struggle in a class that I thought would have been actually easy. That was the most ironic part to me. So, getting right into the justification of each of my projects and where I believe that I earned my grades. So, first, I want to start off by talking about um, meaning making modes, which is something that was very important in this topic. And I have some specific examples of how I implemented them and how I found out how useful they could be within the world and within writing and, just in general, because it is a very important topic. So as I said previously, I was going to dive into, modes and forms that you can use within writing. So first, I just want to start off with dating back to the academic remake project. So first, one of the first modes that I had in this project was understanding the importance of flouters within the police department in the medical field. So this is a type of form that's a title, of course. And it doesn't seem like usually much, even in previous years in English and my honors, even in my honors English courses, my teachers didn't really care about the title, unless it was a big term paper essay or something like that. They usually didn't really care about the title, and even then, it never even had to be creative or was never a big deal. And this course just allows me to even think about something that I thought was so minuscule as a title of how it makes and how it molds and drafts the entire writing, how it gives it meaning. So as I said, I don't want to re-say the title because it would take up too much time, but the title that I mentioned earlier actually gives meaning to the entire essay and the entire foundation. It lays the foundation of the paper, which then goes into another mode, which are my subtitles. So one of my subtitles is difference from other synonyms within the workplace, difference from other synonyms outside of the workplace, why are flouters important to the police department and medical field, a reference graph. And so, yeah, those are all of my subtitles. So other modes that I have throughout here are clearly, paragraphs. I have a graph, as I mentioned, and I have other modes. But on to the next topic, because I don't want to spend too much time on just modes. Next, I want to talk about a very important term called exigency that we learned. So this is the term that I actually wasn't too familiar with, but Professor Arrington actually explained it to me in one of the calls. And she gave me a way of, it was actually something that really stuck with me because my project was based on drugs, and she told me that a way of exigency for drugs would be, crack is for like a ghetto drug and cocaine is like a rich man's drug. So that was just something that kind of stuck with me. So specifically, that was just an example that she taught me to understand it, but it's kind of like the difference or why you would use it or why does this need to exist when a word already exists. So going to my project, I implemented it by explaining the difference between my term, which was flouter, and a term like crackhead, which could be a synonym, but it's not exactly a synonym. So in my project, I wrote the term flouter was made to be a non-offensive term. For example, if an individual sees a flouter and the flouter happens to overhear the person calling them a crackhead, that can be very demoralizing to that flouter. In other words, other terms such as crackhead and junkie can have a very condescending and demoralizing connotation and tone. However, flouter has a much more respectful and suitable tone and connotation. So here, I actually gave an example, or I gave a narrative which could, allow a reader to experience, well, get an artificial experience of how the term works and how the term can be used. And also, more importantly, as I was explaining a few minutes ago, I gave a sense of exigency, and I explained why this term is needed to exist and what's the point of this term even being made. And as I said, the main point of my term was to be non-offensive. So also, more onto the concrete side, on every project I went over the requirements as far as the lengths and the amount of writing and what we needed. So also our participation was very well in that aspect. Even in our calls, whenever we found out what was the problem and what I needed to tackle, many times it was you even stated that many times it was stuff that was very small, and if only I did this, then I would have got an A. And I always tried to work on those and improve into the next project, which I believe I did a very good job, because my grade progressively became much better throughout the year. It went from B to B plus to getting an A on my last project, which I was very excited for. Also, I know I'm very used to sticking to rules, but I remember even in a call you told me that I could break the rules of some of these projects, so I do apologize, but I have to break the rule and go over the time limit that you set of 5 minutes, because I'm just not really feeling like I can get everything in or compress everything into 5 minutes. Also, as I said, most of my projects used titles or some sort of PowerPoint or headline that was very clear and crisp and organized, which goes into the organization concept that we learned this year. For example, my unit of meaning project, I had 9 different slides, and each of them focused specifically on one different topic. So, for example, the 5th slide of mine was flouters demographics, and it stated, due to the specific area, many flouters are usually African American or various ethnic minority. Of course, flouters can also be white, but it is less likely because crack cocaine is a drug highly concentrated in urban areas. Additionally, flouters can range in age, but the most popular ages would be from ages 16 through 55.